Hello everyone, I'm Teacher Yusen and today I'm back again with our challenging question series. But today the topic that we are talking about is about permutation and combination. So let's jump straight into our question. Sean, Toby and Wendy plan to subscribe to newspapers and there are a total of 7 different newspapers available for selection. Now, it is known that each of them subscribes to 3 different newspapers, and that for every 2 of them, there is just exactly 1 newspaper that they both subscribe to. Now the question says we want to find the total number of different subscription methods for them. Now when we read this question, well, we want to find the total number of ways. So obviously, we have to think about the idea of permutation and combination. But now let's think about it. For this idea that every 2 of them, there is exactly only 1 newspaper that they both subscribe to. Well, what are the possible scenarios for this? Oh, so if we think carefully, there should be 2 different scenarios for this case. The first one is that for all 3 of them, they have 1 same newspaper. But there's also the second scenario that each of them, the same newspaper, is different. So now we have successfully split this question into 2 different parts, considering all of them being the same subscription and also not all of them being the same subscription. So let's take a look at the first case over here, where we have the same subscription for all 3 of them. Let's say for Sean, Toby and Wendy, they each have to take 3 different newspapers, right? So we let there be these possible cases. And with there being 1 same subscription for all 3 of them. Now, we realize that the question has this condition for all 3 of them. And that is why we'll need to try to fulfill this condition first, before going on to select the other newspapers. As if we do not do so, it will affect our selection afterwards. So by selecting 1 newspaper for all 3 of them, how many ways are there to select? The answer should be very obvious. Since there are a total of 7 newspapers available, that means for all 3 of them there should be just 7 ways for us to select the newspapers. Now, then let's take a look at the first of them, which is Sean. If I've already selected 1 newspaper out of the 7 different newspapers, for these 2 newspapers, how many ways can we select them? Now, we realize we are left with 6 newspapers and I have to select 2 of them. So, well, how many ways are there? In this case, do we use permutation or do we use combination? Here, since the sequence does not matter, we are going to use combination for it. 6 of them, select 2, and that gives us 6 choose 2. Now what about the next person, Toby? Okay, now we are left with just 4 different newspapers to select 2 of them, and that gives us 4 choose 2. And of course the last one, all of us should be able to see it is just going to be 2 choose 2. So to find the total number of ways that there are, all I have to do is just multiply all of this together. And that gives us 7 times 6c2 times 4c2 times 2c2. And previously in our video about permutation and combination, we have explained how to actually solve for them. And that is just 7 times 6 times 7 divided by 2, 4 times 3 divided by 2, and of course 2 times 1 divided by 2. And calculating all of this, we get our answer of 630. So that is when all three of them have the same one subscription. But no, just now we mentioned that there is still a second condition where all three of them do not have the same subscription. And this is where it gets a little bit more confusing. So starting off with again, three of them. No, because they all do not have the same subscription. Now we think, starting from the first guy. For these three newspapers that he select, how many total ways are that? Since we have 7 different newspapers and I want to select just 3 of them, that would mean that I can have 7C3. But no, that's a problem. Since all of them have to have one similar subscription as compared to the previous person. Now this guy, if we look at the first position over here, well, how many ways can I actually select? Can I just choose any newspaper? The answer is of course no. Why? Because we have to select one of these 3 newspapers that we have selected. And that gives us how many ways? Out of the 3 of them, 3 ways to select this newspaper. What about the other 2 of it? Obviously, we are left with 4 newspapers to select from. From 4 we select 2, just 4 choose 2. Now on to the next part. Let's look at this one again. Since it must have one that is similar to the one before, well, how many ways are there? Again, we have to select from these 2 that are already there. And that means I have a total of 2 ways to choose from. But no, that's also another problem. This newspaper, who must it be the same as? It must also be the same as one of this newspaper. Wait, but can it be the same as this newspaper that was selected? The answer is of course not. Otherwise you'll be back to the same concept. So here, how many possible newspapers can I select from? Aside from this one that is the same, it must be one of the other 2 of them that are not selected. That means we have a total of 2 other ways. Now with that being said, how many other numbers am I left with to select for the last one of it? Well, from 7 we have already selected 3 and selected another 2. So we are just left with 2 more numbers to select from. And that tells us, of course, there are 2 ways to select the last one. Now, combining all of them together, we'll realize that, oh, the total number of ways should just be all of them multiplied together. And that gives us 7C3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 4C2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 and another 2. And that, if we calculate it out, it gives us this final answer of 5040. Now, that is all of the cases being considered. Now, what do we have to do? All we have to do is just add both of them together. The total number of ways is just what we have just now plus what we have now. And that should give us our final answer of 5670. That is the total number of ways to select those newspapers. So with that being said, we have finally come up with our answers. But what did we learn in this complicated question today? The answer is very simple. When we are asked to select methods, to choose ways, and there are specific conditions being mentioned. Now, the first thing we have to do is, if there are multiple cases, we split them up into all of those cases and we sum them up together. And the second thing is that when there are specific conditions, what do? We try to solve those specific conditions first to ensure that they are catered to, and the rest of our answer will not affect it. So we have to start from the conditional term first. And that is all of the summary that we have for this type of question. Now with that, that's still not the end. We have an additional question for all of you to attempt, where this practice question is a little bit different. So if you're done with it, feel free to press the answer in our comment section below. And that's all for today. Well, if you have any other questions, feel free to just scan our WhatsApp group and join. Our teachers inside the group will be very glad to help you if you encounter any problems. So with that being said, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel below. Thank you and bye bye.